Да, Соединенные Штаты не разрабатывают якобы наступательного оружия. Во всяком случае, общественности об этом неизвестно. Хотя наверняка разрабатывают. Но мы даже сейчас спрашивать об этом не будем. Мы знаем, что разработки идут. Но мы сейчас сделаем вид, что мы об этом не знаем. Не разрабатывают. Но что мы знаем? Это то, что в Соединенных Штатах активно разрабатывается и уже внедряется система противоракетной обороны. Да, сегодня она неэффективна, и мы точно не знаем, будет ли она вообще когда-нибудь эффективна. Но теоретически она ведь для этого и создается. Значит, опять же, гипотетически мы исходим из того, что когда-то наступит момент, когда возможная угроза со стороны наших ядерных сил будет полностью нейтрализована. Сегодняшних ядерных сил России. А если это так, то это означает, что баланс будет абсолютно нарушен. И что у одной из сторон возникнет ощущение полной безопасности. А значит, это развязывает ей руки не только в локальных, а возможно уже и в глобальных конфликтах. Мы же с вами сейчас дискутируем. Я не хочу никого подозревать в какой-то агрессивности. Но система отношений – это так же, как математика. Она не имеет личного измерения. И мы должны, конечно, на это реагировать. Как? Или так же, как вы, и строить многомиллиардную противоракетную систему, систему противоракетной обороны, либо, имея в виду наши возможности сегодняшние, экономические, финансовые, ответить асимметрично. Чтобы все поняли, что да, система противоракетной обороны есть, но она в отношении России бессмысленна, потому что у нас есть такое оружие, которое легко преодолевает. Вот мы по этому пути и пойдем. Это дешевле для нас. Но это никак не направлено против самих Соединенных Штатов. Я полностью согласен с... если вы говорите, что система ПРО не направлена против нас, то и наше новое оружие не направлено против вас.
First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh and his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai. So that video that we just watched there, that is a video of the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and what they are calling the Satan II missile. If you've seen what he said about them having two choices, they can build a weapon that can neutralize the anti-missile defense that America is building. The thing is with that, America has set up these missile or anti-missile defense silos in Romania, which is on the border of Russia, as well as in Alaska and a few other places around the world. So he's basically saying that they would have to create a weapon to nullify and to neutralize this thing. And in comes the RS-28, what's called the Satan II. All right? So I'm gonna pull up an article here about that. It says Satan II, the most powerful missile in the world, can crash USA. I'm gonna just get a few points out of here. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has raised tension around the world, and a lot of political experts are raising concerns about a third world war. If it doesn't go well, the war between Ukraine and Russia will not remain between the two countries. Rather, it can give birth to something catastrophic. So, we're watching things ramp up all throughout Europe. First off, there's an energy crisis that all of the European nations are suffering from right now because they were buying their energy from Russia. Now, with these sanctions that America has implemented or forced Europe for the most part, and NATO and the EU to implement on Russia, they're no longer buying Russian energy. So now it's a whole lot more expensive. But get this, the funny part is the pipeline that they had that was running into Europe from Russia, it was sabotaged, or it blew up. I want to say maybe a year or 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago or so. This pipeline blew up, right? So America, taking this opportunity to, on this tragedy, comes in with what's called LNG, or liquefied natural gas. This is something that America exports. So conveniently, as the Russian pipeline goes down, and no one knows who did it, no one can figure out what happened, or who did what, or how did this thing blow up. But here comes America with their liquefied natural gas. The thing is with that is Europe doesn't have the ports. Sure, America has plenty of it to sell, but Europe doesn't have the ports to accept this gas. They have plans on building the ports to accept them, but that won't be until 2026. So now pretty much Europe has to figure out what they're gonna do about energy. They're already cracking down. Right now they're giving out suggestions as far as what you can do to save energy. But of course, I believe those suggestions are going to become mandatory shortly. But it's getting expensive, and it's hitting the pockets of the people. So I anticipate there being some upheaval in the next year or so. Because they said they may make it through 2023, but 2024 is going to be rough. They don't know what they're going to do. So all these things are pointing towards a war. Not only a war, but if they can't get Russia to yield as far as what they're doing in Ukraine, then farther down the line, I don't think Europe has a choice as far as keeping the United States as an ally or not. Because I doubt whether they're going to watch and see their people suffer for long. So, and there's scriptures on that. In Obadiah, it talks about, let's get it real quick. Obadiah. All right. It says here, let's start at verse 6. It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hid things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So you got to think, if the Lord is setting a trap, like he said in Jeremiah, we'll get that real quick, Jeremiah 50. And verse, we'll start at 23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Obviously, that's talking about the hammer of the whole earth. You got to think about who goes around conquering all these countries and doing what they please. So if there's any hammer in the whole earth, it would be the United States. How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? And it's going to describe how. It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. So now we're watching the breaking of these partnerships. Down the line, I just don't see Europe suffering because of whatever beef, first of all, Ukraine has, and whatever sanctions America is going to continue to put on Russia. Like, Americans ain't suffering. They're not suffering for energy. They're not suffering for gas. But they have a whole continent on the other side of the world suffering for these things. So eventually, the EU and all those NATO countries, they have a decision to make whether or not they're gonna go broke, have people dying. Because if there's no energy going to these hospitals. There's no People die. Like, once it hits a certain temperature, especially in Europe, it's cold. Once it hits a certain temperature, the elderly and the young, they're the most vulnerable. They're gonna be the first ones to go. So they have an important decision to make. But when you read the scriptures, it looks like the Lord already made this decision. These allied countries are going to turn against America eventually, right? So back to this weapon that they're going to choose to nullify the United States weapon system. Like I said, they have anti-missile defense set up in Romania, in Europe, which they're also going to be, well, they're trying to build another one in Poland, but I don't know how that was going. I know they canceled it, but they might bring it back. So Russia's concerned, right? As any enemy of the United States would be and should be. If you start setting up missile systems in, I always compare it to, if I look out my window and somebody that I've been uh, fighting with for pretty much forever, right? And you see them out on your front lawn and they just loading up guns and doing drills, shooting cardboard cutouts of you and your family. They just out there on your front lawn, just shooting cardboard cutouts of you and your family, right? Doing drills on how they're gonna break in, kick in your door, and come into your house. That would raise concerns, no? So I never understood how NATO and the United States, who agreed that they wouldn't expand um, after the Soviet Union broke up, they agreed they wouldn't expand to the east, but now they find themselves on the doorstep of Russia. So they're doing all kinds of drills, and now to the point where they're building launchers and rockets um, in the neighboring countries. So of course Russia's concerned about that. Not only that, but these missiles, um, they call them anti missile defense systems or whatever the case may be. Um, can they shoot down Russian nukes? I don't know. But what they can do is be loaded with missiles in order to attack Russia, whether it be conventional or nuclear. They can fire from from that area. I believe in the video what Putin was trying to say is that their missiles would be neutralized by this weapon system, meaning that it could shoot down nukes. So That means the United States can fire on them, and there's nothing that they can do about it. That's why he was talking about the balance of power. So now globally, they can pretty much do whatever they want, right? But that's also the thing about when it talks about I set a trap for you and all the allies or all the men of that confederacy push the evil into the border. Like I said in the previous video, all these countries have to do where these weapon systems are set up, all they have to do is turn them off. Just turn them off. So it takes about 30 minutes for a nuke to travel from Russia to America. And that's using, I guess, their old school missiles. I don't know what they got now. They got some kind of hypersonic thing going on. It's called the Avant-Garde, which can get here in like 10 minutes or something crazy like that. But so now you cut that time short. The early warning systems, if Europe, if the allies in Europe, if all these allied countries decide to shut those radars off, guess what? We ain't seeing nothing until those missiles hit like Alaska, um, which by then it's too late. By then it's too late. So, so this is the Satan too, right? We just get a couple sentences out of here of what this thing can do because I was reading about it and it's crazy. It's amazing. This is literally a a doomsday weapon. Like you talking about the lake of fire? This is how the lake of fire is going to be formed. So, all right. It says, with the doomsday weapon Satan II, the Soviets can attack any nation in the operational range of 18,000 kilometers, according to Russian military magazine Zvezda. Zvezda. The Satan II should start its journey this year. And this article's kind of, yeah, this article's from 2022, last year, February. So it's in service now. Um, should start its journey this year. Is the Russian Ukraine crisis giving any indication of its use? Well, we don't know yet. If if it is, this can be very dangerous. So let's learn some facts about the most powerful missile in the world. It says we already know that the United States has developed technology, advanced missile defense systems, but Russia has responded with powerful offensive nuclear weapons that will soon be able to penetrate NATO's defense systems. So going back to that video, that's what he was talking about. So though America has built these anti-missile defense systems, Russia has created something that can uh, to counter that, to neutralize these defense systems. Satan II, the most powerful missile in the world, got the Advanced Persistent Threat, APT, NATO designation. In Russia, this intercontinental missile is called the RS-28, and the world can expect this year it will gradually replace its predecessor, the SSS-18. So that was the first one that they had, which was, I guess, the not souped up one. Now they got a new one that, yeah, from what I was reading, this thing got countermeasures, so it can't be shot down, which is just crazy to me. Only the devil, only the, and you know what's ironic too? I was thinking about this, um, that they call it the Satan too, right? And in Matthew, when it talks about if Satan be uh, divided against Satan, then how can his kingdom stand? So America, who is known in the East as the Great Satan, and Russia making this Satan II missile, that is Satan's kingdom. That's Satan against Satan. Satan divided against Satan. So how can his kingdom stand? Them all being Edomites at the end of the day. So ironically, he's going to use their own. weaponry to destroy themselves. Satan against Satan. Satan 2 against the great Satan. You know, the Lord is a genius, man. It's comedic. It's funny. And the world can expect that this year it will gradually replace its predecessor. It says 18. All right. Satan 2 is equal to 500 Hiroshima bomber. Is equal to 500 here. Okay. That's not English, but all right. Until now, the RS-28 or Satan II is the heaviest intercontinental missile in the world, and it can launch a total weight of 220 tons. First of all, like I said in my other video, anything dropping from space that weighs a ton is going to cause some crazy damage. But not only these things weigh a ton, because the thing is the entire missile doesn't drop. When you look into the whole profile of the missile, so this thing shoots up into the air, and it has what's called the MIRV technology, MIRV, uh, multiple independently targetable reentry vehicle or vehicle, something like that. So this thing it'll shoot up in the air, and then it has warheads inside of it. So it gets launched into space, and then the MIRV system will separate from the top of the missile, and then it'll just drop it'll drop warheads in wherever it wants to go. Like it has their own vehicles to go to whatever target that it wants to hit. So one missile will hit like 6, 7 cities, depending on MIRV, how many warheads that this one missile is carrying. And I want to say it's like uh, 6 to 10 it can carry inside of it. But and then, like I was saying, the countermeasures that this thing carries. The MIRV system can actually carry uh, like 50 warheads or something like that. Like the missile has like 50 warheads, but they're decoys. So it'll carry like 50 different decoys inside of, and so you don't know what you're shooting at. So even if you get off your anti-missile defense system to strike these things in the air, there's about 50 decoys that you got to get through. Looking at the missile defense system in America, and I'm gonna try to. I'm probably gonna do another video so you can actually see what they say about the missile defense system. It's trash. It's trash. There's maybe like 40 something actual missiles that can shoot stuff down. So if you only have 40 anti-missile defense missiles and you throw out 50 decoys, them warheads are gonna hit. Them nukes are gonna hit. All right, back to the article. So, and it can launch a total weight of 220 tons. Most of its weight consists of fuel required to give the missile a range of up to 18,000 kilometers. Right. So, with that being said, as well, from what I was reading, the missile can come from the north, where we are expecting it, where America is expecting it to come from, the north, or it can come from the South Pole as well, where nobody's looking out for it. So that was interesting, but that's just another part of the countermeasures that this new missile, some of the countermeasures that this thing could take. On the other hand, it requires that amount of fuel to travel at the speed of 25,560 kilometers per hour, which is 19 times faster than supersonic Concorde. So I want to say it's like Mach 19 or something like that. It's a fast missile, which is another countermeasure because the anti-missile defense system, the missiles only travel but so fast. So if you got something coming in at Mach 19, you're gonna have some issues shooting it down. And the explosive deck, it can take a payload of 10 tons, and it is theoretically enough to carry a nuclear charge equivalent to the Tsar Bomba. For further information, it was the 50 megaton hydrogen bomb that triggered the most powerful explosion on the planet ever. During the test blast of the Tsar Bomba in 1961 on Novaya Zemlya, people saw the powerful flash 2,000 kilometers away. Moreover, the pressure wave damaged buildings within a radius of up to 1,000 kilometers. And like I said, anything falling from space that weighs a ton is going to cause some damage. They had a comet or a meteor or something like that, and I think it only weighed like 80 pounds. And you should have seen what it did. Knocked out all types of windows, and it caused a lot of damage. So imagine that, you know, 80 something pound. Now imagine something that weighs a ton falling from space. But when it comes to the Satan II, it will carry up to 15. Okay, so it's 15. It can carry 15 smaller nuclear warheads instead of one. Moreover, they will be able to aim at their targets independently. In addition, it can also easily defeat decoy missiles, the U.S. Defense's missile system. So according to its capability, the total explosive power of the Satan II will be 500 times the Hiroshima bomb, which killed 140,000 people. 500 times the bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima. Most advanced in avoiding detection systems. So these are the countermeasures that I was talking about. According to Russian sources, the RS-28 will have a short burning time on the rocket engine and will help to avoid the defense system in advance by its warning sensors. So the significance of having a short burning time is the infrared sensors that pick up anytime a missile goes up in the air, the infrared, the satellites, they'll pick it up based off infrared. They'll pick up the heat signature. So it having a short burn time, you can't you won't detect it, one, and then you need to detect it, the burn time, so you can detect where it's going as well. Like, you know, these missile defenses, they're smart, so they can actually calculate from how much burn time, how high it goes up into the air, where it can land, in theory, where it can go. So with a short burn time, it's going to be very difficult to do anything. So that's another countermeasure. Both the Russian and American land-based missiles have so far been dependent on taking the shortcut across the North Pole Basin to reach the targets. The RS-28, on the other hand, has enough range to fly via Antarctica and attack the United States from the south. And the United Nations missile defense system will not be able to detect. That's crazy. United Nations, man. Therefore, being the most powerful missile in the world, it can also win the title of the most clever missile technology yet. The ultimate doomsday warhead technology with the most powerful missile in the world. When Putin presented Satan II during his 2018 speech for the first time, he pulled another ace out of his sleeve. He said we had to find an answer to the U.S. missile defense, a weapon that can penetrate any defense to restore the nuclear balance. So they're just doing what they can, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, but they're doing what they have to do in order to defend themselves. Ultimately, you got Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, right? These are the only countries that's not under some kind of American influence. No puppet president or government. Nothing. These are the only countries that are still standing against Babylon at the end of the day, right? You got to think the entire Europe, the entire continent of Europe is pretty much NATO, EU, pretty much in alliance with America. So now you've pushed and pushed and pushed up against Russia's borders. And if you look south, with all the revolutions that were orchestrated in the Middle East, you look south, and now American forces are all throughout the Middle East as well. Japan, Guam. So south, east, west, like they're surrounded. They're surrounded. So there's only a few nations left that are actually there left to even stand against what America wants to do. It's crazy when you think about it. Like they literally surrounded uh, their enemies on all sides. Russia, China, Iran. They've surrounded them. So yeah, he said we have to find an answer to the U.S. missile defense, a weapon that can penetrate any defense to restore the nuclear balance. During his speech, the video screen behind the lectern showed an animation of a 5-meter long wedge-shaped craft that flew further from the rocket at 27 times the speed of sound. 27 times the speed of sound. This is what I was talking about, the avant-garde. It was avant-garde, which is another development in nuclear warheads technology. Satan too can carry several of these nuclear warheads by using the lifting effect when it hits the upper atmospheric layers. So, forget the MIRV, what I was talking about before. This can also carry the avant-garde, several of them, apparently. So these, it's a warhead attached to what's called a unmanned aerial vehicle, a UAV. It's like a drone, but a drone that travels at 27 times the speed of sound, right? So again, you can't shoot that down. The missiles that are designed to shoot down nuclear missiles, they don't go this fast. Reading on. Satan too can carry several of these avant-garde nuclear warheads by using the lifting effect when it hits the upper atmospheric layers. The craft can also jump on the air's surface, much like when you throw a fish bounce on the water. So it's like skipping rocks. In addition to extending the range enough to attack via the southern detour, the avant-garde warhead can also outmaneuver defense missiles. So not only does it travel at 27 times the speed of sound, but it moves around, it maneuvers, right? There's missiles that have different signatures when they lock on. I was reading about one, it was the SSN-22 Sunburn. Um, when I was in the military, this was like the scariest shit that you can, you never wanted to be in contact with this missile because what it would do is after it was launched, it would weave back and forth, side to side, kind of like a snake, like a rattlesnake, in order to avoid being shot down with anything that we had. So it would weave back and forth. So it's saying that this thing traveling at 27 times the speed of sound can also outmaneuver defense missiles. On the other hand, the targeting accuracy has been increased from 200 meters with the predecessor S-18 to 10 meters, but it does not have all the significance of the world. Russian media claim that a single Satan II can wipe out an area the size of Texas, France, or half of Norway for that matter. According to an article published on Russian military weekly Zvezda in 2018, Alexei Leonov, a Russian defense expert, claims that a single rocket could kill up to 37.5 million people in the United States. And 10 Satan II Sarmat rockets are enough to take the lives of the entire American population. So this is what we read about. This is what we read about. Real quick, let's see how many. How many Satan II missiles? Okay, so I don't know. It'd be nice to know how many of these things are in service, though. Because if 10 of them could take out the entire population, but that's when they say this lake of fire, you know, this can create a lake of fire. You got to think when these things go off, uh, everything is going to burn. There's going to be fires everywhere. 100%. Um, all right, so I'm not sure exactly how many they have. Okay. After the test on 22 May, Roscosmos head Dmitry Rogozin warned that 50 new Satan II RS-28 Sarmat SSS X-30 intercontinental nuclear missiles will soon be combat ready. First contract for the production of the missiles was signed in August 2022. So it takes 10 to destroy the United States. They got 50. And they're not, the thing is, with a nuclear strike, you have to ensure, because they have what's called MAD, mutual assured destruction, and that's really what the deterrent is for a nuclear war. Period. The fact that if you fire, I'm a fire. So the thing is, with a strike like this, they're not gonna fire 10. If they got 50, they're gonna fire 49. They may keep one to defend themselves just in case, but they have to decimate in order for there to be no opportunity for them to be destroyed. They have to destroy everything. And that's the thing. Because that's why when the scriptures talk an alliance from the north is going to come against Babylon, all of the countries that are enemies of America, they have to fire at the same time, if that makes sense. If America has the opportunity to strike, um, they can assure that they're going to be destroyed. So they're going to all have to fire all at the same time. So hence the term lake of fire. It's like I was saying, once that once that goes off, forget about the actual destruction of the missile. You got to think about the fires. You got to think about California. California's still on fire from a lightning strike. Can you imagine what's going to happen when a nuke hit? Everything is going to be on fire. So you have the nuclear fallout, you have the blast, But let's not forget, fire also sucks the oxygen out of the air. So there's people who be literally suffocating and dying from no oxygen being in the air, from inhaling debris. Like this thing is man. But again, this is the Lord's plan, right? It says we're gonna come back to Jeremiah 50, but let's go to Isaiah real quick. Isaiah 54, because he tells you. Verse 16, it says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy." So the Most High saying that, let's get it in Peter, because he said that the next destruction is not going to come by. It's not going to come by flood. He says he reserved it for fire. Let's get it. Start of verse 5. "For this they willing are ignorant of that by the word of God the heavens were old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was being overflowed with water perished." That's talking about the flood. "But the heavens," the first flood, Noah and the flood, "but the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire, against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men." So it says this world is reserved for fire. And how is the Lord going to make that fire? This giant bonfire, this lake of fire, like he said in Isaiah. Go back, Isaiah 54. Like he said, he created. He says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy." So this is all the Most High's plan, right? To usher in the coming of our Lord. Let's get Isaiah chapter 9 real quick. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 5, it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire." So this war gonna be different. It's gonna be burning and fuel of fire. This is gonna be nuclear war. This is gonna be Satan 2 missiles being fired. All right. Let's get Jeremiah 50, verse 25. It says, "The Lord hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord, of the God of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans." So the Lord has opened up his armory and hath brought forth those weapons he was talking about in Isaiah. And he created the smith that bloweth the coals, that created the wasters to destroy. Now he's opened up his armory in order to do his work in Babylon. All right? So I want to go one more. Let's watch some more of this stuff. Let's see what they're talking about.
Пока наши СУ наносят удары по ИГИЛ, ежедневно уничтожая от 8 до 12 объектов боевиков, российские конструкторы завершают работу над самой последней разработкой в области отечественной авиации. Это планирующий беспилотник глайдер Ю-71. Этот гиперзвуковой самолет, по задумке конструкторов, сможет нести на своем борту ядерное оружие и маневрировать на скорости свыше 11 тысяч километров в час. При этом двигатель...
I don't know if y'all can hear that or not, but yeah, this is the hypersonic missile that they were talking about that can maneuver and do all that other stuff. This is it right here.
Новейший летательный аппарат будет поломанной траекторией.
It will fly in a sporadic zigzag manner and as such be completely undetectable for any missile defense system.
Которую невозможно вычислить, а значит сбить противоракетой. По словам конструкторов, российский глайдер создавался в обстановке строжайшей секретности в рамках другого проекта под кодом 4202. А это проект ракетной программы стратегического назначения. В нем российский аппарат служит головной частью перспективной тяжелой межконтинентальной.
Missile called the Sarmat. So that's that RS-28. That's that Russian missile, the Satan II.
Ракеты «Сармат», которая сейчас создается.
Он уже летит не по баллистической траектории, он совершает определенные маневры и, соответственно, естественно, маневрирует уже находясь в верхних слоях атмосферы, находясь на высотах несколько десятков километров. Но это в любом случае выше 40, но где-то до 80. Это вот идет уровень вот этого дела, где этот аппарат может маневрировать. И, соответственно, при этом траектория его абсолютно меняется.
Says its flight path constantly changes in a way that cannot be predicted.
И самым непредсказуемым образом. Естественно, определить уже, куда летит этот объект, уже невозможно физически. В этом поэтому его заключается самое ценное качество.
And this is its main advantage. It said nothing can predict what and where this missile is going to go.
Ожидается, что ракета «Сармат» поступит на вооружение российской армии в начале следующего десятилетия и заменит знаменитую РС-20 «Воевода», которую американцы прозвали «Сатана». Новая ракета сможет нести 4 с лишним тонны ядерного боезаряда на дальность в 10 тысяч километров. Это значит, что она сможет ударить фактически в любую точку США. Новая ракета
What it said there is it can reach any place in the United States. So ain't nowhere safe. Nowhere.
Может нести 4 с лишним тонны ядерного боезаряда на дальность в 10 тысяч километров. Это значит, что она сможет ударить фактически в любую точку США. А если в качестве носителя этой ядерной боеголовки будет использован разрабатываемый сейчас глайдер Ю-71, он увеличит вероятность поражения цели в разы. Ведь никакая система ПРО, по словам экспертов, не способна не только вычислить траекторию ядерного носителя глайдера, но и достичь скорости этого летательного аппарата. И такое почти что фантастическое оружие, по словам военных экспертов, очень...
The thing is, we never actually seen any of these anti-missile defense systems actually work. And like I said, I'm gonna do another video on the anti-missile defense system and how it's really inadequate. When it comes down to it, it's a bit inadequate, especially when it
Is this a tank or a rocket?
Скоро может поступить на вооружение России.
The amount of missiles that can be fired. The effects of a nuclear bomb. Let's watch this one real quick. It's a short. It's about 4 minutes long, but it always. I watched this years ago, and it always like. And these ain't even like the new type missile. This video is just on like the old school nukes.
Within 1,000th of a second of the detonation of this bomb, a fireball would form, reaching out for 2 miles in every direction, 4 miles across. Within this area, temperatures would rise to 20 million degrees Fahrenheit, which is hotter than the surface of the sun, and everything would be vaporized. The buildings, the people, the trees, the upper level of the earth itself. To a distance of 4 miles in every direction, the blast would generate winds in excess of 600 miles per hour, and blast pressures greater than 25 pounds per square inch. Forces of this magnitude can destroy anything that human beings can.
I don't know if y'all missed that or not, but it's at the surface of the sun. Yeah.
Build. Underground shelters would collapse. To to a distance of 6 miles in every direction. The heat would be so intense that automobile sheet metal would melt. To a distance of 10 miles in every direction, the blast would still generate winds in excess of 200 miles per hour and blast pressures greater than 10 pounds per square inch. Forces of this magnitude would level wood frame buildings, masonry buildings. A modern steel and concrete building would see its walls and floors swept out. Just the steel skeleton would remain. To a distance of 16 miles in every direction, the heat would be so intense that everything flammable would burn. Wood, paper, cloth, heating oil, gasoline, it would all ignite. Hundreds of thousands of fires, which would, over the next half hour, coalesce into a giant firestorm, 32 miles across.
That's that lake. That's that lake of fire. That's what I was talking about. Everything is going to burst into flames. You got gas stations, boiler rooms, factories, chemical factories, all of that. Just on fire. Everything flammable.
Covering over 800 square miles. Within this entire area, the temperature would rise to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. All the oxygen would be consumed, and every living thing would die. Beyond this great firestorm, the destruction would continue, and there would be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people suffering severe injuries. Crush injuries, penetrating injuries, extensive burns, blindness from retinal burning. All of these people would need intensive medical care, but it would not be available because most of the hospitals would be destroyed, most of the doctors and nurses and other health professionals would be dead, there'd be no electricity to run the ventilators and cardiac monitors, most of the medical supplies would be exhausted within hours, and the vast majority of these people would not receive any medical care at all. They would die alone.
Because who's going to do it? The doctors and the nurses, they're not exempt from this nuclear war. Who's going to treat the people?
And in great pain.
Hospital. What hospital?
And if this attack were part of a large-scale war between the United States and Russia, this level of destruction would be visited on every metropolitan area in the United States and in Russia. A study which Physicians for Social Responsibility published in 2003 showed that if just 300 of the warheads in the Russian arsenal detonated over urban targets in the United States, something between 75 and 100 million people would die in the first half hour. In addition, the entire economic infrastructure would be destroyed. The transportation system, the communications network, the public health system, all the things that a modern industrial country requires to maintain its population, all of these things would be gone. And it is probable that in the ensuing months, the vast majority of the American and Russian population, those who were not killed outright in the first half hour of the attack, they too would die from starvation, from exposure, from epidemic disease, from radiation poisoning. As unimaginable as these direct consequences are, they are not the worst part of the story. Here too, it is the environmental consequences that we need to really look at.
Yeah, that's deep, man. What the Lord has decided, that's what they deserve. That's what they're gonna get. It's written already. So we can feel bad all we want, but this is Revelation chapter 18. Verse 5, it says, "For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." So this place it's just become so rotten. Babylon has become so rotten and sinful that its sins has reached up to heaven. Reward her, verse 6, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. For how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Again, that's the pride. It's the pride of Esau, Edom, right there. Thinking they can never be touched, but the Lord gonna set them up like he said. Said, I set a trap for you. I set a snare for you. In Jeremiah 50. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning. Again, plague just means calamity. When you look at that word in the Hebrew or in the Webster, it's plague just means calamity. Therefore shall her plagues or calamities come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God that judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city. For in 1 hour is thy judgment. And there's only, what can destroy an entire nation in 1 hour? Right? Exactly. So, stay tuned for part 2, wherein I will go into the anti-missile defense systems. And we're going to expose just how inadequate they are to defend against any kind of nuclear strike. So, don't believe the hype. May God be with you all, and see you next time.